The escape pod drifted through the endless black like a dying star, its hull scarred and broken from the destruction that had torn their world apart. Inside the cramped metal shell, Naya held her daughter close, feeling Kira's small body tremble. Against her chest, the child had not eaten in 3 days, and the recycled air grew thinner with each passing hour. Naya's own strength was fading fast. Her blue-tinted skin had grown pale, and her large silver eyes were heavy with exhaustion. She had managed to keep them alive for 26 days since fleeing their burning homeworld, but now their supplies were nearly gone. The distress beacon had been broadcasting for weeks with no response, and she was beginning to accept that they would die alone in the void. "Mama, are we going to see Papa again?" Kira whispered, her voice barely audible above the failing life support systems. Naya's heart broke at the innocent question. Her mate had stayed behind to help others escape, sacrificing himself so they could live. Now it seemed his sacrifice had been for nothing. She pressed her lips to Kira's forehead, tasting the salt of her own tears. "Yes, little star," she lied softly. "We will see him soon." The pod's emergency lights flickered red, casting eerie shadows across their gaunt faces. Naya closed her eyes and began to hum an old lullaby from their world, the same song her mother had sung to her centuries ago. If these were to be their final moments together, she wanted Kira to remember love, not fear. A sudden vibration shook the pod, followed by a deep rumbling sound that seemed to come from everywhere at once. Eyes snapped open, her heart racing. Through the small porthole, massive metal shapes moved past like floating mountains. A ship. A real ship with running lights and powerful engines. Her fingers flew to the communication panel, desperately trying to boost their signal. The pod's computer crackled to life with an incoming transmission, and a deep human voice filled their tiny space. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain James Morrison of the cargo freighter Red Dawn. We've received your distress call. Please respond if you can hear this." Naya had never heard a human voice before, but something in its tone made her trust it instinctively. She grabbed the communication device with shaking hands. "Please?" she gasped, her voice hoarse from dehydration. "We are dying, my daughter. She is just a child." Silence stretched for long seconds, and Naya feared the human had changed his mind. Then the voice returned, softer now, filled with something. That sounded like compassion. "Hold tight, we're bringing you aboard."
I expected.
Swallowing their tiny pod into its belly, Naya clutched Kira tighter as mechanical arms guided them to a safe landing, the artificial gravity pulling them down with blessed weight after weeks of floating dot. Captain James Morrison stood waiting as the pod's hatch hissed open. Her first look at a human, he was tall and broad-shouldered, with kind brown eyes and weathered hands that spoke of years in space. His dark hair was streaked with gray at the temples, and his face carried lines of worry and determination. "Easy now," he said gently, extending his hand toward them. "You're safe here." Naya hesitated, her protective instincts warring with desperation. Kira peered out from behind her mother's arm, her large violet eyes wide with curiosity. A human knelt down to make himself less intimidating, his movements slow and careful. "My name is James," he said, looking directly at Kira. "What's yours, sweetheart?" Kira, the child, whispered, taking a tentative step forward despite her mother's restraining hand. "That's a beautiful name," James smiled warmly. "Kira means light. In one of our old languages, very fitting." A younger human approached carrying medical supplies and blankets. His red hair was unruly, and his freckled face showed genuine concern as he looked at their malnourished forms. "This is Tommy, my engineer," James explained. "He's going to help take care of you." Tommy knelt beside them, his voice gentle. "When did you last eat? And that cough doesn't sound good." Naya found herself answering honestly, something about these humans putting her at ease despite everything she had been taught about their species. As Tommy examined Kira with practiced care, James helped Naya to her feet, his strong arms supporting her weight. "We have guest quarters prepared," he said quietly. "Nothing fancy, but they're warm and private." The quarters were small but clean, with 2 narrow beds and a tiny washroom. After weeks in the cramped pod, it felt like a palace. Tommy brought them soup and bread, watching with satisfaction as color slowly returned to Kira's cheeks. "Mama, the soup tastes like sunshine," Kira giggled. The first sound of joy Naya had heard from her daughter in months that night. As Kira slept peacefully for the first time since their escape, Naya found herself standing at the small porthole, watching stars drift past. James appeared beside her, offering a cup of warm tea. "Your pod's navigation system shows you've been drifting for nearly a month," he said softly. "Where were you trying to go?" "Anywhere," Naya admitted. "Our world is gone. We have nothing left but each other." James was quiet for a long moment, then placed his hand gently on her shoulder. The touch sent an unexpected warmth through her, different from simple gratitude. "Then stay here as long as you need," he said. "Ship is just metal and engines without people to make it home." 3 weeks passed like a dream aboard the Red Dawn. Kira had transformed from a frightened, starving child into a bright, curious girl who delighted in exploring every corner of the ship. The crew had adopted her as their unofficial mascot. Teaching her human games and showing her how the various systems worked, Naya watched her daughter's transformation with wonder and growing affection for these kind humans who had saved them, especially James, whose gentle strength had become the anchor of her new world. She found herself seeking his company during the quiet hours when Kira was asleep, sharing stories of their lost world and listening to tales of his adventures among the stars. "Miss it," James observed one evening as they sat together in the observation lounge, watching a nebula paint the darkness in shades of purple and gold. Every day, Naya admitted, her silver eyes reflecting the cosmic light. I think I'm beginning to understand what it means to build something new from what remains." Their shoulders touched as they sat side by side, and neither moved away. The contact sent electricity through Naya's entire being, a sensation she had not felt since losing her mate. But this was different somehow, deeper and more complex. "James," she said softly, turning to face him, "why did you save us? Your people and mine? We've never been allies." He looked at her for a long moment, his brown eyes searching her face. "Because you were someone's mother, someone's daughter. Because in all this vast emptiness, connection is the only thing that matters." His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. Naya's breath caught at the tenderness of the gesture, at the way her heart raced beneath his gentle touch. She had not expected to feel this way again, had not thought her broken heart capable of such emotions. "Naya," he whispered, and her name, on his lips, sounded like a prayer. Before either could think or hesitate, they moved toward each other, their faces close enough that she could feel his warm breath against her skin. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative and questioning, then deeper as she responded with all the longing she had been trying to deny. When they finally broke apart, Naya's cheeks were flushed with a soft blue glow, a physiological response her species showed during moments of deep emotional connection. James traced the pattern with wonder, his touch reverent and amazed. "Is this wrong?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Nothing that feels this right could ever be wrong," he replied, pulling her close again. In the days that followed, their relationship deepened beyond simple attraction. They found themselves finishing each other's thoughts, moving in perfect harmony as they worked together. Kira noticed the change immediately, her young face bright with happiness as she watched her mother smile more than she had in years. "Mama loves Captain James," she announced one morning at breakfast, causing Naya's cheeks to flush that telltale blue while James nearly choked on his coffee. "Is that okay with you, little star?" Naya asked carefully. Kira considered this with the seriousness only a child could muster. "Yes," she said finally. "He makes you happy. And he gives the best hugs." Love beyond the stars, the Red Dawn had become. More than a refuge, it had become home. Naya had never imagined such happiness was possible after losing everything. James's love had awakened something in her that she thought had died with her world, and their nights together were filled with whispered confessions and tender explorations of hearts learning to trust again. Tonight, as Kira slept peacefully in their quarters, Naya found James in his private cabin. The space was simple but personal, filled with books, star charts, and mementos from a lifetime of traveling between worlds. He looked up as she entered, his face lighting with that special smile he reserved only for her. "I was hoping you'd come," he said softly, rising from his desk, where he had been updating the ship's logs. She moved into his arms without hesitation now, all her earlier fears dissolved by weeks of growing intimacy. Their kiss was hungry and desperate, fueled by the knowledge that their time together existed in a bubble that could not last forever. "James," she whispered against his neck, breathing in his familiar scent of soap and starlight. "I need you to know ... what we have here. It's everything to me." His hands tangled in her long silver hair, pulling her closer. "You saved me too," he murmured. "I was just existing before you and Kira came aboard. Now I'm living." They made love with a passion that transcended species, their bodies fitting together as perfectly as their hearts. Afterward, they lay entwined in his narrow bunk, skin against skin, sharing the kind of peace that only comes from absolute trust. "What happens when we reach the trade station?" Naya asked quietly, tracing patterns on his chest with her fingertip. James was silent for a long moment, his arm tightening around her. "I've been thinking about that," he said finally. "My contract with the shipping company ends soon. We could find somewhere to settle. Somewhere safe for Kira to grow up." Hope and fear warred in Naya's chest. The dream he painted was beautiful, but she knew the realities they would face. "Your people won't accept us easily. Mine. If any survived, they would see me as a traitor for loving a human." "Then we make our own people," James said firmly, turning to look into her eyes. "You, me, Kira, and anyone else who believes love matters more than species." Their tender moment was shattered by alarm screaming throughout the ship. James was up and moving instantly, pulling on his clothes as Tommy's voice crackled over the all. "Intercom, Captain. We've got 3 Zelani patrol ships approaching fast. They're demanding we surrender any refugees we might be carrying." Naya's blood turned to ice. The Zelani were her people's ancient enemies, the ones who had helped orchestrate the destruction of her homeworld. "If they found her and Kira, they'll kill us," she whispered, terror replacing the warmth in her voice. James grabbed her hands, his grip strong and reassuring. "Over my dead body," he said with quiet intensity. "I won't let anyone hurt you or Kira, either of you. But your career, your life means nothing without both of you in it." He cut her off, sealing the words with a fierce kiss. "Trust me, Naya. Trust us." The next few hours passed in a blur of desperate flight and narrow escapes. James pushed the Red Dawn beyond its safety limits, using every trick he had learned in 20 years of space travel to evade the Zelani patrol ships. Tommy worked miracles. In the engine room, while Naya held Kira close, whispering brave stories to keep her daughter calm, when they finally lost their pursuers in an asteroid field, James made the call that would change everything. He activated the ship's long-range communicator and sent a terse message to his superiors. "Command, this is Captain Morrison. I'm resigning my commission effective immediately. Do not attempt to track this vessel." Tommy looked up from his repairs, grinning despite their desperate situation. "Well, Captain, looks like we're all outlaws now." "Not outlaws," James corrected, pulling Naya and Kira close. "Pioneers. Found sanctuary on Eden's Gate, small colony world on the outer rim where humans and various alien species live together in peaceful coexistence. The colonists asked no questions about their past, welcoming them with open arms and warm smiles. James used his savings to buy a small farm on the outskirts of the main settlement, with rolling hills that reminded Naya of her lost homeworld and wide skies where Kira could run and play safely. The first night in their new home, they sat together on the porch, watching twin suns set over fields of golden grain. "Mama, are we really staying here forever?" Kira asked, curled up between her mother and the man who had become her father in all the ways that mattered. "Yes, little star," Naya said, her hand finding James's in the gathering twilight. "This is home now." "Good," Kira said with satisfaction. "I like having 2 homes, the ship that saved us and the ground that keeps." Wes. 6 months later, Naya stood in the same spot, her hand resting on the gentle curve of her growing belly. James knelt in their garden, teaching Kira how to plant seeds while explaining the miracle of how tiny beginnings could become something beautiful and strong. Their love had created more than just happiness. It had created hope. The child growing within her would be living proof that love could bridge any gap, heal any wound, build any future. Around them, their chosen family worked and laughed together. Tommy had stayed to help run the farm, and other refugees had found their way to their door, drawn by the promise of acceptance. As the stars emerged in the darkening sky, Naya smiled at the constellation patterns that were becoming familiar, no longer the cold points of light that had watched her people die, but warm beacons guiding her toward tomorrow. She had been homeless among the stars until a human gave them shelter. But now she understood the truth. Home had never been a place. Home was James's arms around her, Kira's laughter in their fields, and the certainty that love would always light their way forward, no matter how dark the void around them might seem. The end of their wandering had become the beginning of everything else.